Director Hartig, thank you for being here. Can you please share a little bit about your experience as a historian?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Frost. I came to history as an undergraduate. I thought I was going to be an English major, but I took my first...
Mr. Gonzalez, are you a professional historian?
Actually, I have been paid by publishers to write history, so I am.
Okay, how many exhibits have you curated?
Oh, no, I'm not a curator.
Okay, how many exhibits have you curated? It's a separate question.
I haven't curated any exhibits
Okay,
because I'm not a curator.
Dr. Hartig, thank you. Dr. Hartig, is your work partisan?
No, sir, our work is not. We don't seek to advance any political agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Does the museum take political sides or have a political agenda?
No, sir.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Congress Daily Report. Today we're breaking down a heated Capitol Hill showdown as Congressman Max Frost clashes with a Heritage Foundation witness over the Smithsonian, American history, and political censorship. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stick around until the end for the full breakdown. Let's get into it.
Mr. Frost from Florida, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I gotta say, listening to this hearing, I think many of my colleagues would benefit from actually stepping foot in the Smithsonian institutions, maybe not just reading talking points from the White House or reading what they're supposed to say. I've been in these museums. I mean, talking about the National Museum of African American History and Culture specifically, it tells the whole story. The ugly and how America and Americans came together to get rid of slavery, to fight Jim Crow. But it tells the whole story. So maybe this committee should do like a field trip and actually go through these institutions to actually see the full story be told, because I would contend that many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have never stepped foot in many of these institutions, at least not in a long time. Director Hartig, thank you for being here. Can you please share a little bit about your experience as a historian?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Frost. I came to history as an undergraduate. I thought I was going to be an English major, but I took my first history class, and I was rowing crew for UCLA at the time, and I hoisted my 10-speed on my shoulder, and I walked up the stairs to the history department, and I declared that I wanted to be an historian. And since then, as a public servant and as a public historian, in which we look at archives and material culture and museum work and historic preservation work, I've been completely motivated to figure out how then I can best serve the nation, and being the Elizabeth Macmillan Director of the museum certainly is the highest calling.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, are you a professional historian?
Actually, I have been paid by publishers to write history, so I am.
Okay, how many exhibits have you curated?
Oh, no, I'm not a curator.
Okay, how many exhibits have you curated? It's a separate question.
I haven't curated any exhibits
Okay,
because I'm not a curator.
Dr. Hartig, thank you. You haven't curated any exhibits, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Hartig, is your work partisan?
No, sir, our work is not. We don't seek to advance any political agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Does the museum take political sides or have a political agenda?
No, sir.
Does the museum have exhibits that challenge people's views or may make them feel uncomfortable?
History is incredibly challenging, and by then its very nature, if we tell it in its richness, we absolutely, I think, have objects that can make people uncomfortable. And, you know, I hearken back to Secretary Bunch's words that he was told by a sharecropper that, you know, tell the people both what they want to hear and what they need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think depending on where you are, certainly there can be a level of discomfort.
Thank you. What review process does the museum use before opening an exhibit?
So the museum goes through a rigorous scholarly presentation of the way in which exhibit objects and stories and interpretation relate to one another. That's reviewed extensively, also depending on the size of the exhibit. Our In Pursuit of Life, Liberty, and Happiness exhibition, our 250 object exhibition for America 250, went through exhaustive review with also peer reviews as well. Then it is presented up to the undersecretaries and often the secretary in conversation
Thank you.
with our review.
Thank you,
sir.
Director. Mr. Gonzalez, who should decide what's in a museum?
I would say that the curator, but also overseen by the leadership of the museum. The taxpayer does spend $1.1 billion in the Smithsonian, so the Smithsonian is accountable to the American taxpayer.
All right, thank you. I have a yes or no question. Should exhibits capture American history as it happened without bias?
Yes.
Was slavery a part of American history?
Yes.
Was Jim Crow a part of American history?
Yes.
Is it important that museums discuss these topics at length so people understand the gravity?
Absolutely yes.
Do you believe that American art should be consistent with the Trump administration's cultural and political goals?
I have no idea what that is. I cannot comment on that.
Do you believe that American art, or do you believe that the Smithsonian's goals should be consistent with the Trump's administration's cultural and political goals?
I don't know how you define that. I cannot answer it.
You seem to have a long-standing personal vendetta against the Smithsonian that started well before the White House report. And I ask you those questions because I'm concerned about censorship. I'm no historian either, just like you. But I know that Nazi Germany weaponized art and museums to demonize certain groups. Dr. Blight, if Congress or the White House starts deciding historical interpretation, how is that different from political censorship?
It is political censorship. Their model may indeed be Joseph Goebbels' Committee on Enlightenment, which is what the Nazis called their committee that tried to control museums.
I'm sorry,
Thank
sir.
you. I yield back.
Time's up.
Well, folks, if there's one thing Americans can agree on, it's that history matters. But here's the question that sparked fireworks during this hearing. Who gets to decide how American history is told? Is it historians? Is it museum directors? Is it elected officials? Or should it be the American people whose tax dollars fund these institutions? That's the debate we witnessed during this explosive exchange between Representative Max Frost and a witness from the Heritage Foundation. And let me tell you, things got heated quickly. Congressman Frost opened by criticizing Republicans on the committee, suggesting many of them haven't visited the Smithsonian museums in years. He specifically defended the National Museum of African American History and Culture, arguing that it tells the whole story of America, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Now, regardless of your politics, I think most Americans agree that history shouldn't be sanitized. America's story includes incredible achievements. It also includes slavery, segregation, and difficult chapters we'd rather not repeat. Ignoring those facts doesn't make them disappear. But here's where conservatives tend to ask a different question. Are museums simply presenting history, or are they increasingly interpreting history through a modern political lens? That's a fair question, especially when taxpayers are footing the bill. Frost then turned his attention to the Smithsonian's museum director, asking about her background as a historian. She described a lifelong career in public history, archives, preservation, and museum work. No controversy there. But then Frost pivoted to Heritage Foundation witness Mike Gonzalez. And this is where things became interesting. Frost asked if Gonzalez was a professional historian. Gonzalez responded that he had been paid to write history. Then came the follow-up question. How many exhibits have you curated? His answer? None. It was a classic congressional moment. Frost was clearly attempting to establish a contrast between career museum professionals and outside critics. And frankly, it was an effective line of questioning. But let's be honest here. You don't necessarily have to be a curator to question how publicly funded institutions operate. Americans criticize the Department of Education without being teachers. They criticize the Pentagon without being generals. And they criticize Congress without being members of Congress. That's part of living in a free country. The museum director went on to explain that Smithsonian exhibits undergo extensive peer review and are not designed to advance a political agenda. She also made an interesting point. History, by its very nature, can make people uncomfortable. And she's absolutely right. History isn't supposed to feel like a Disney movie. It's complicated. It's messy. And sometimes it's painful. But here's the challenge. What one person calls telling the truth, another person calls political activism. And that's where much of this debate lives. Then Frost began asking a series of yes or no questions. Was slavery part of American history? Yes. Was Jim Crow part of American history? Yes. Should museums discuss these subjects? Absolutely. And honestly, I don't think you'll find many conservatives disagreeing with those answers. The real disagreement isn't whether these events happened. The disagreement is about emphasis. How much attention should be given to America's failures versus its successes? Should museums primarily focus on our mistakes, or should they also emphasize the extraordinary progress America has made? Because let's not forget, America ended slavery. America defeated fascism. America landed on the moon. America remains one of the most diverse and prosperous nations in human history. All of those things are part of the story too. Then came the moment that changed the tone of the hearing. Frost repeatedly asked whether the Smithsonian should align with the Trump administration's cultural goals. The heritage witness declined to answer, saying he didn't understand how those goals were being defined. Moments later, Frost accused him of having a personal vendetta against the Smithsonian and raised concerns about political censorship. And then came perhaps the most controversial comparison of the entire hearing. Frost invoked Nazi Germany and Joseph Goebbels, suggesting that government control over historical interpretation resembles political propaganda. Needless to say, that got people's attention. Now, as a conservative, I think we should be very careful when making comparisons to Nazi Germany. Those comparisons have become far too common in modern politics. Disagreeing over museum exhibits is not the same thing as living under a totalitarian regime. At the same time, I also believe government should be cautious about dictating historical narratives. History shouldn't belong exclusively to one political party, Republican or Democrat. It belongs to all Americans. And that's really what this hearing was about. Not museums, not exhibits, not even the Smithsonian. It was about competing visions of America. One side believes institutions are accurately telling difficult truths. The other believes those same institutions have drifted toward ideological activism, and millions of Americans are caught somewhere in the middle. They want honest history. They want balance. And they don't want politics injected into every aspect of American life. Here's where I stand. I believe museums should tell the whole story. Tell us about slavery. Tell us about Jim Crow. Tell us about the civil rights movement. But also tell us about the founding fathers, the greatest generation, the moon landing, and the countless Americans who helped build the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever known. History isn't one chapter. It's the entire book. And if we're only reading certain pages, we're not really learning history at all. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, Americans deserve institutions that educate rather than divide. We deserve museums that challenge us without preaching to us. And we deserve leaders who understand that patriotism and honesty can exist at the same time. Because loving America doesn't mean believing it's perfect. It means believing it's worth preserving, improving, and passing on to the next generation. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Congress Daily Report. And let me know in the comments, should museums focus more on America's failures, its successes, or should they strive for an equal balance of both? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next report.